Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the parents of a teenage victim of homophobic abuse say the justice system has let him down. The boy was tied to a chair and forced to apologise for being gay. His parents say his abusers were given a slap on the wrist. Also in tonight's programme, we'll look at what's been going on the campaign trail, including the launch of the Scottish Liberal Democrats manifesto. NHS Dumfries and Galloway tells everyone in the region to assume their data could have been published online following a major hack.
In the sport, I'm live from Cologne. Where did it all go wrong against Germany on Friday? And there's a further blow for the Scotland squad ahead of their game against Switzerland. And we're on the road with the Tartan Army camper van convoy, heading for Cologne with hope for that next match. Hello, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to Monday's programme. The parents of a 14-year-old boy who was tied to a chair and forced to apologise for being gay say the teenagers involved have been given a slap on the wrist by Scotland's justice system. A video shows the boy with his wrists bound and a stick placed at his throat. Police charged 3 youths with abduction and assault, but the case was dealt with by the children's reporter instead of the courts. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan has more.
This video for children explains the role of the children's reporter, the system Scotland uses to protect and care for vulnerable young people and address their behaviour if they've committed an offence. Last summer, the reporter dealt with 3 teenagers who'd been accused of attacking this couple's 14-year-old son. They were sent a video showing him in a derelict building being forced to apologise for being gay.
The video showed our son with his wrists bound, tied to a chair. He looked to be in distress and there was a stick being pushed under his throat. The boy that was pushing the stick was saying, "Say sorry." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach.
The boy told his parents there was a petrol can in the room. He was freed when the teenagers heard sirens in the distance.
It haunts us, thinking what must have been going through his head, knowing he couldn't escape the room. He was told things like he would get his head cut off in Iran for being gay.
Police Scotland have confirmed 3 youths were arrested and charged. The boys' parents thought they would appear at Glasgow Sheriff Court, but after making inquiries, they discovered the case had been referred to the children's reporter.
I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe that they'd chosen that route. I think what also upset us was we had to go and find this out ourselves. Nobody told us.
8 months on, they were told a social worker had been assigned to work with one of the teenagers on their behaviour and any other issues in their life. They haven't been told what action, if any, was taken in relation to the others. The case was raised in Parliament by this MSP.
Instead of this being treated as a criminal matter and treated seriously, as the family were led to believe and as they rightly expected, it was diverted to a process whereby the alleged perpetrator's interests were prioritised.
In a letter to Russell Finlay, the Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain said it must have been a horrendous experience for the boy. It was clearly serious and was treated as such by the police and the Crown Office. In consultation with the children's reporter, the Crown considered the gravity of the offence, the best interests of the teenagers and the victim, and the likely outcome should the case be sent to court. The decision not to do so was final and can't be appealed. The boy's parents sent the video of the incident to the BBC, and it is shocking. He was attacked again in January this year. A 16-year-old was charged with assault and referred to the children's reporter. The boy's parents say he's now too scared to go to school, and they're afraid every time he leaves home. David Cowan, Reporting Scotland.
NHS Dumfries and Galloway is telling everyone in the region to assume that some of their data is likely to have been published online following a major hack. The Chief Executive has described the situation as extremely serious and once again urged patients and staff to be on their guard for anyone trying to access their computer systems. Well, our reporter Katie Hunter is here with us. Now, Katie, you've been following this. What's the latest?
Back in February, Laura, cyber criminals targeted NHS Dumfries and Galloway and stole millions of pieces of patient and staff data. Now, they made ransom demands. When those demands weren't met, they published that data. Now, that included x-rays, test results, and some children's mental health data. Now, NHS Dumfries and Galloway has sent a leaflet to every household in the region saying that it's best to assume that some data relating to you is likely to have been copied and published. Now, for context, there are around 150,000 people living in Dumfries and Galloway, and the fact that the Health Board has written to every household suggests that this is more widespread than perhaps they initially thought. Now, the advice to patients and staff in the region is to be on your guard for any suspicious activity. And if anyone contacts you saying that they have your data, the advice is to contact Police Scotland on 101.
OK, Katie, thank you for the update. Now, a man has been sentenced to life for the murder of a retired school teacher in Edinburgh. Paul McNaughton admitted luring 75-year-old Peter Caution to a flat in Leith using a fake profile on a gay dating app before killing him in August 2022. McNaughton, who's 29, must serve at least 22 years in prison. His flatmate Paul Black, who was cleared of murder, was jailed for at least 5.5 years for attempting to pervert the course of justice. Now, after the disappointing performance and result against Germany on Friday, Scotland know they must get a win or a draw against Switzerland in Cologne on Wednesday if they're to progress in Euro 2024. Thousands of fans have started arriving in the city, but they're not quite over what happened last week. From Cologne, here's our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin.
A new city and new hope. The Scotland fans on this Euro journey were never expecting it to be easy, but the manner of Friday's defeat was very hard to take.
It was the desire, they weren't close to it. It was so off the pace, it was really, really poor. So they just can't do that again.
You know, what you'd expect from Scotland, you know, backs to the wall, proper, getting stuck in, just didn't seem to be there, and that's what was frustrating.
New city, new optimism?
I'd like to say yes, but I was there on Friday, so maybe no.
Yes, always optimistic.
Players about what I feel was wrong from my side, what I gave them. I think their interpretation of what we asked them to do was wrong. We know it was a bad night. We have to accept all the criticism that comes our way, and then we have to try and put it right.
The squad are back in training, cocooned in their camp away from the noise. The fallout from Friday can't have escaped them, though. They know those who support them demand better. And if that doesn't come, they could be gone by next week. Scotland sit rock bottom of Group A and know they now need at least a win and a draw in the final group games.
Certainly from our point of view, we'll look at the reasons why maybe we didn't turn up as we would have hoped to have done and didn't perform the way we can perform to have a positive performance and a positive result.
Those who know criticism isn't always helpful also understand sometimes it's warranted.
They're top players, elite players, they're athletes, it's what they do. In 3 games at the end of a busy season shouldn't take that much out of their bodies. It's how you overcome the psychology of it and the mental battle and the fact that they do have the weight of a nation on their shoulders.
Here in Cologne, Scotland are at a crossroads. Deliver on Wednesday and there's hope. A repeat of Friday and the party is over.
Well, Chris joins us now from Cologne. Chris, what about the city itself then? Because there were issues, weren't there, with the fan zones in Munich. What can people going to Cologne expect?
Yeah, a number of issues in Munich, to be honest. The fan zones, we had lengthy queues for things like food and toilets. Some people were actually turned away and the fan zones had to be closed down early because of the weight of numbers. The transport system was pretty stretched. Here in Cologne, they initially had provisions for 2 fan zones. They have since added a third with a capacity of 50,000. Now, the officials in the city think that up to 60,000 Scotland fans will be in the city. Not as many, of course, as Munich, but they are taking no chances. I've noticed quite a number of pop-up toilets as well in the city. That was a problem in Munich. In terms of the tickets themselves, it's the same setup as Munich. Scotland officially have 10,000 for the stadium itself, but of course, just like Munich, many, many more have decided to travel.
OK, Chris, for now, thank you. Well, back here, politicians were out on the general election campaign trail again today, and our political correspondent David Henderson joins me now. What have they been up to today?
Well, this campaign, like the Euros, is growing tense, Laura. There are 18 days to go until the election. That sounds like ages yet, until you take into account postal votes, because postal votes are starting to arrive in people's homes. They have been over the last few days, and with as many as 1 in 5 of us set to use a postal vote in this election, it adds a new urgency to this campaign because, in effect, people are already starting to vote. So today, senior party officials and leaders have been crisscrossing the country, visiting those key target seats. To help that, Scottish Labour have unveiled their new battle bus, which set off today from Edinburgh across through the Central Belt and off towards Ayrshire, areas where Labour think they're in with a good chance of winning this time around. For his part, the SNP leader, John Swinney, well, he's in the midst of an absolute whistle-stop tour. Since Friday, he's been in Munich with the Tartan Army, then Aberdeenshire, Inverness, Ullapool, off to the Western Isles, Stornoway and Barra, and tomorrow he's expecting to be campaigning on the West Coast as well. A reminder of this huge swathe of Scotland, which has been SNP territory in recent years. For their part, the Conservatives have been focusing very heavily on the south of Scotland today. They hope that remains a big stronghold for them, and their Deputy Scottish leader, Megan Gallagher, was out and about in Annan today, meeting business owners. But what's unclear tonight, Laura, is just what sort of impact that on the Tory vote especially will be Nigel Farage and his Reform Party. They launched their election pledges today. The big question, will he split the Tory vote here in Scotland as he threatens to split the Tory vote in England as well? All will become clear quite soon.
Indeed it will. Thanks for the roundup, David. And the Scottish Liberal Democrats have launched their manifesto ahead of the general election in just over 2 weeks' time. Proposals include what they call a £500 million rescue package for care and taxing social media firms to invest in mental health. Our political correspondent Lindsay Buse has more.
Eye-catching photo calls are something of an election specialty for the Lib Dems. Scottish leader Alex Cole-Hamilton hoping to drive up votes at his manifesto launch. After a narrow miss for his deputy Wendy Chamberlain, the two set out promises that often focused on devolved policy areas by highlighting how the Lib Dems' Westminster agenda would result in more cash coming north of the border. That includes an extra £170 million for Scottish agriculture, an additional £500 million for Scotland's care sector to help fund an extra £1,000 for unpaid carers, a 10-year home insulation programme, and greater investment in mental health services, funded by increasing tax on social media firms. There's also a promise of an extra £1 billion of capital funding for things like hospitals and housing, but it would be up to Scottish ministers to decide how to spend any extra cash.
We are going to take a big leap forward at this general election, and with those strong Liberal voices, those new Liberal MPs, we'll be making the case to move that money towards mental health services. Elections are about signals of intent, about what you would do if you were running the country to make things different. We want to signal to the rest of the country that mental health is a key priority for the Liberal Democrats, particularly among our young people.
The Lib Dems are hoping that after this election, they'll have replaced the SNP as the third largest party at Westminster. And while they don't expect to be in power, they're hoping that that increased prominence will heighten their influence over the UK and Scottish governments and give them momentum going into the next Holyrood election in 2026. But for now, with just over 2 weeks to go on this election trail, the party hopes it'll be riding high come the 4th of July. Lindsay Buse, reporting Scotland, near South Queensferry.
Well, as part of the Your Voice, Your Vote series ahead of the election, we're hearing from people up and down the country about the issues that matter most to them. And today, Jamie McIver is in West Dunbartonshire.
The main road leads drivers past the Vale of Leven rather than through it. A group of towns which are home to 20,000 can seem hidden by the roadside trees. But turn off and you enter towns with history and concerns for the future. it can be hard to tell just where one town stops and the next one begins, but the towns here face several common challenges. Alexandria is at its centre and regeneration is an issue. Wilkie's is a long-established local business.
We should have a thriving town centre. But if you look outside, the aesthetic doesn't quite match that. And from a local business, we would just really love to see a bit of time and effort put into making town centres like ours thrive.
Across the road, the last bank in town. Beth and May say politicians should focus on the impact of bank closures.
Yes, they should take an interest in it, especially their pensioners, because they don't know about apps.
If I knew how to do it myself, I would do it.
A few minutes away, Balloch looks very different. It's benefited from investment and is popular with tourists. Lorraine McKiernan is a trustee of a local charity supporting unpaid carers.
I honestly believe there are second-tier NHS system below the parapet, and I don't think they get the degree of respect or knowledge, but even they themselves, and many of them don't think they're carers, they think that's what they should be doing.
Some I spoke to claim the Vale can feel forgotten, but remaining silent guarantees that local voices won't be heard. Jamie McIver, reporting Scotland.
OK, let's get tonight's sport now and head back to Germany and say hello to Lewis.
Hello there, Laura, and good evening from Cologne. I'm just a little further up the river than where you saw Chris earlier on, and this is indeed the host city for Scotland's second match here at Euro 2024. A crucial game against Switzerland awaits on Wednesday night.
A good start to the week, no, a good ending to it. I think it's been a great place to come and train. The weather's finally arrived, but as you can see, it's a really peaceful place. The locals are delighted to have us here. Got involved at the start of the week, and then on Wednesday you'll see a different Scotland team, and probably a team with a point to prove to ourselves more than anything else. People always say the lows in football make the highs higher. It doesn't. The lows are brutal, absolutely brutal. But as you get older, you don't look at the opinions of anyone else. I'm sure we've had a lot of criticism, and deservedly so. But you don't look at it. We can't really get worked up on what anyone's saying because you couldn't probably argue. To play on Wednesday night, it's got to be a completely new version of myself and the team as a whole.
Now let's move away from the Euros briefly, shall we, because Glasgow Warriors are on a flight to South Africa after a stunning victory over Munster, saw them reach the final of the United Rugby Championships. The Scotstoun side 17-10 upset at Thomond Park, stunned their Irish opponents and set up a showdown with the Bulls in Pretoria on Saturday evening. The Warriors are looking to win the competition for just the second time in their history. And finally, Andy Murray says he'll like to retire after Wimbledon or the Olympics as the tennis legend prepares to hang up his racket. The 37-year-old Scot has already indicated that this will be his last year as a professional. He'll play singles and doubles at Wimbledon and has been picked to represent Great Britain in Paris. And that could be that for the three-time major winner. He's in action though at Queen's tomorrow in the first round.
Probably if I was going to finish my career, would rather finish, at Wimbledon or at an Olympic Games. To me would be probably more fitting. Like I said, I've had amazing experiences and memories from Wimbledon, but also being part of British Olympic teams, and to get the chance to be involved in a fifth one, is a reason to stay motivated and continue playing. And but like I said, a lot of it is based on results and physically how I'm feeling as well.
Well, the Scotland squad will arrive here in Cologne tomorrow. I'll be live from the stadium where Steve Clarke will be speaking to the media ahead of a game he simply can't afford to lose. Back to you, Laura.
Lewis, for now, thank you so much. Well, after Friday's disappointing defeat in Munich, the Tartan Army are on the move again, hoping better things lie ahead in Cologne. One group of fans caught the eye by travelling in a convoy of camper vans decked out in Scotland flags and banners. Our reporter Stephen Godden caught up with them at various points along the Autobahn.
At a service station outside Munich, the Tartan Army's camper van convoy prepares to set off for Cologne.
We knew there was going to be a lot of people coming over in camper vans. We thought it'd be nice to meet up and maybe put on a wee bit of a show, leaving one city, going to the next one.
Fridge freezer, fridge, beer cooler.
The essentials are packed, and by now the daily routine is well established.
6 of you in there, tell me what that's like.
It's very tight, but we manage it, we manage. We're all, well, except for him, he snores a lot, so I hate to sleep with earplugs in, I think.
Aye. It's a 350-mile trip to Cologne. Around 6 hours for the passengers to keep themselves amused.
Guys playing poker to break the journey. There's some cheating going on.
But driving on the German autobahn, which at points has no speed limit, isn't for everyone.
I've chosen not to. That autobahn
You've opted out.
Wild. It's like wacky races. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this.
The lanes are quite tight. There's a bit of speed going on, so it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Some people hired their camper vans, others have bought them especially for the trip, and there's also some serious customisation.
I wanted it to be, you know, kind of Tartan Army for the trip, but also something that I could keep on the van. So it's not just exclusively, you know, for football.
Ah, the football, the reason they're here. So has Scotland's bad start affected the adventure?
I think you wake up the next day, you're Scottish again, you're like, we'll go again Wednesday.
I'm still excited for the games, but a bit more worried than I was before.
You're still looking forward to the games, aren't you? Yeah.
Onwards and upwards? That question will be answered on Wednesday night. Stephen Godden reporting Scotland, Cologne.
Onwards and upwards indeed. OK, let's get the weather now with Christopher, which seems to be going upwards a wee bit.
Yes, the general trend this week is for temperatures to climb, but still a few hefty showers around, some ominous-looking skies there earlier from one of our weather watchers, and some heavy downpours at the moment, Laura. Thank you very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yes, we had fairly cloudy conditions across a good part of the country today, and a number of showers around at times too. This is the satellite and radar from earlier. You can see the showers through central and eastern parts and a few thundery ones in the southeast. In the cool north breeze, 11 degrees in Stornoway. In the strong June sunshine, though, for some, we got up to 19 degrees. Into this evening, still a few heavy downpours in the south. Those tend to ease off, and many areas will be largely dry overnight. There'll be some clouds, some clear spells, and 1 or 2 showers in the north. Temperatures in towns and cities around 8 to 10 Celsius. Still a brisk breeze around the northwest coast from a northerly direction. To tomorrow, and a few early bright spells, but generally tomorrow morning is fairly cloudy. Best of the sunshine likely through the Hebrides. Through the day, though, that sunshine will start to extend its way eastward, so brightening up for many areas. There'll still be some cloud around, and we'll see a number of showers, and like today, these could be thundery, perhaps through the southern uplands, 1 or 2 in towards the central lowlands. In the parts of the west, 18 degrees. Elsewhere, a little bit cooler than that, certainly from that breeze around the far north and northeast. Lovely sunshine, though, across parts of the northwest coast, in towards the Hebrides. A bit more in the way of cloud there in Shetland. Tomorrow evening, those showers fading away, and then clear skies follow. So tomorrow night, cooler than this coming one. That takes us to midweek. Wednesday, we've got this large area of high pressure just ridging its way in, affording us a largely dry and fine day. The exception will be across the Highlands and Islands. Cloudier here, breezier with some outbreaks of rain, but elsewhere, pretty decent day to come on Wednesday, actually. And with winds coming in from the southwest, those higher temperatures that are more widespread, up to around 18 degrees in Aberdeen, but cooler in the northwest. And that general warming trend is sticking with us through Thursday and Friday. Always some cloud around, always some rain, certainly across parts of the west and northwest. But elsewhere through central, southern and eastern parts, Thursday and Friday, in the sunshine, 20 or 21 degrees could be yours. That's the forecast for now.
Much better. Thank you, Chris. And now let's get tonight's main news again. NHS Dumfries and Galloway is writing to every household in the region, warning them to assume that some of their data is likely to have been published following a major hack. It's asking everyone to remain cautious regarding any suspicious activity. Well, I will be here with your late news around 10:30 tonight, and you can stay up to date in the meantime over on the BBC News Scotland website. But from all of us here and the team in Glasgow and Germany, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.